Welcome, Slayer the Alchemist. You know, sometimes I wonder if there's something wrong with me. I'll listen to a new album, or maybe an album I've just never heard before and it's new to me. And I find after two or three songs, my mind is just somewhere else. I can't concentrate on the music. My mind keeps wandering away. The album ends. I don't remember anything about the record. And then I saw a video of a guy who is a film professor at some big university. And he talked about how he used to have to do a ton of movie reviews. And he used to bring his wife with him. And he would tell his wife, if I start nodding off or falling asleep, just elbow me, wake me up so I can pay attention to the movie. And then he realized it's not my responsibility to stay awake. It's the movie's responsibility to keep me awake. And he mentioned how there's times, he goes, where I've come into a movie where I was up the entire night before, sick, exhausted, and I go into the movie and 2 hours later I come out, I'm energized, I have all this, I'm excited, I have this adrenaline pumping. It's the movie's job to keep me engaged. And I realize now, with this new Deep Purple album, Equals One, at least I think that's how you say it, their 23rd studio album, that there's nothing wrong with me, because this album kept me so engaged from top to bottom. When the whole thing was over, it was like, that went by quick, and it's not a short record. It's somewhere in, I think it's like 55 minutes or something like that. When the record was over, my head was just filled with melody lines, great choruses, riffs, guitar solos, drum fills, bass lines, keyboard solos, that I wanted to immediately go back and listen to it again. After I listened to it from top to bottom, I was like, oh, where's that song that had that great chorus? Okay, here it is. Oh, and this is the one with that awesome riff at the beginning. And here's this, I couldn't listen to it again quick enough. I wanted to just hear the whole thing again because it was so engaging. It was so memorable. After one listen, so much was stuck in my head and in my ears. It is such a well-written and well-performed album. It's unbelievable. It's so amazing that in 2024, a band like Deep Purple, their 23rd studio record, they've got a new guitar player on this record, Simon McBride, that at this point, they're putting out an album like this. The chemistry amongst these guys is undeniable. It's so obvious that when they get together, they're writing songs for themselves. And these guys are such good songwriters. There's nothing about this record that feels forced. There's nothing about this record that feels like, they're trying to kind of do something heavy to fit in with this, or they're trying to do this to fit in with what's going on today. Not at all. This feels completely natural, completely organic. The mix is fantastic. It's Bob Ezrin is the producer. Bob Ezrin also gets a writing credit on all the albums. Now, Bob Ezrin is one of my favorite producers. This is not a typical Bob Ezrin production. When I think of Bob Ezrin, I think of The Wall, Alice Cooper's $1 Billion Babies, Kiss Destroyer, where you got all kinds of orchestras and choirs and bells and whistles. You don't get any of that here. This is a band live in the studio. When I first heard it, I was slightly thrown off by the drum sound because I'm so used to drums being triggered and processed and having things done to them. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what a drum set sounds like. Okay? This is the way it's supposed to sound like. This is the way drum sets sounded in the 70s. They put microphones around them and the drummer played. And it's been so long since I've heard drums like this. Maybe Iron Maiden kind of does this, more natural sounding drums, that it's almost like it takes you aback at first. And in general, the whole mix kind of throws you back at first because it just sounds like they set up and played in the studio. And I heard an interview with Gillan, and he said that's basically what they did. It sounds like an old school record, an old school record in 2024, but it still sounds clear. You can hear every instrument. All the instruments sound great. It doesn't sound like it's some weird, outdated thing like they were trying to, like, sometimes I think Iron Maiden goes for this vibe but misses the mark because not all the frequencies are just properly lined up. Here, all the frequencies are in check. Everything sounds great. Simon McBride, I was excited to hear what he was going to bring to the table. I saw them on the Whoosh tour, and so I was curious, what is he going to bring to this? And at first, I was kind of thinking, maybe he didn't jump out at me as much as I expected. But then as I was listening along, I realized two things. That the band is playing as such a unit. It just sounds like one entity. There's times where nobody's jumping out at you. Then, of course, there's other times where, and there's all this great guitar and keyboard interplay. The keyboard solos a little bit, the guitar solos. There's times where Simon does jump out. And then I realized, like, this guy is such a team player, and he blends so well into the band. His guitar sound is fantastic. It's got enough of an old school sound. It's not like super over compressed. It's not too clean. It's right in that sweet spot for me of enough distortion and compression to give it that really, his leads sound great. His rhythms sound great. And there's times where he jumps out, where he's got a solo, or maybe he's got a lick or something. And he jumps out and the spotlight's on him. And then the spotlight backs up and goes back to the band again. There's moments all over the record where everybody shines, where there's a spotlight on Ian Pace or any of the guys in the band, and then it goes back because it's all about the band, and it feels so natural. And I just get the impression that these guys are all in the room and there's just no egos involved. It's just all about the songs, all about the chemistry, all about the top-notch, excellent songwriting. I've said this when I talk about like Ian Gillan working with other people when he was on the Born Again record with Black Sabbath. This is rock royalty. This is Mount Rushmore of rock. These are guys that I put on Olympus as far as like Ian Gillan, Don Airey, Ian Pace, Roger Glover, and now Simon McBride. These guys are just operating on a playing, songwriting level, a maturity level that is just something to be aspired to and admired. And in 2024, that a band could put out an album like this, that's this passionate, is just, I tip my hat to them. It is really, really something else. I've seen people saying it's the best thing since Perfect Strangers. I'm quite a fan of House of the Blue Light, so I'd have to think about it. But this album really reminds me of like the melodic catchiness of House of the Blue Light, maybe mixed with like Who Do You Think We Are, that kind of open band interplay, playing in the live in the studio type of vibe. And finally, I'll say, Ian Gillan, he is such an amazing vocalist. Now you're not going to get the highway star Child in Time screams anymore, but who cares? He sounds amazing. He still has his range. His lyrics are so clever. His melody lines are so good. There's so many good choruses on this record. There's so many catchy hooks from the melody lines. I love his lyrics. There's a line in A Portable Door, I believe, and I wrote it down here. And the jacket's too small for a man of your size, and those socks are too big for your head. I mean, it's just, the album is just full of lines like that. He sounds so good. This is a guy singing to his strengths at, how old is Ian Gillan? I think he's like 79 years old. This is a guy not trying to sound like the 24-year-old Ian Gillan, not trying to sound like the Perfect Strangers Ian Gillan. He's sounding like the best Ian Gillan of 2024. And it just so works. It never feels forced. He uses his voice so well that this is such a great vocal performance from him. And the fact that, again, he is 79 years old and he's doing this is just amazing. Okay, I basically love every single song on this album. But if I were to run them down, the opening track, Show Me, the keyboard and guitar, I just love this. They do this a couple times on the record. Don Airey plays for like 4 measures, then the guitar plays, Simon McBride plays for 4 measures, and they have this back and forth thing. Just so awesome. A bit on the side, great chugging main riff. There's these drum fills that Ian Pace does in it sort of towards the end of the song, where the band sort of hits the riff, and then there's an open space and he's doing all these fills. I mean, come on. In 2024, ladies and gentlemen, this is how these guys are just such great musicians. And this is, please listen to this. This is how drums are supposed to sound, kids. It's just, I just love it. Sharpshooter. It sounds like it could have been on Who Do We Think We Are. It's fun. It's playful. The verse melody, it's just great. I love that you're my babyface assassin with your weapons of seduction. What a great line. And then here's one of my favorite on the record. This one really, I mean, I love all these songs, but this one really jumped out at me. Portable Door. This one is just great. It's got this pictures of home kind of vibe to it, especially in the verse. Fantastic chorus, very anthemic. You can't help but want to sing along. It's so uplifting. More great lyrics. I love the chorus in this. The jabbering's hurting my brain cells so bad. For once in my life, I am bored. The public house beckons. I follow the call. Slip in through the portable door. Great line, and it's such a catchy chorus. I love it. Old Fangled Thing, it's got this the main riff is sort of like this twisted blues, like they used to do in Ring That Neck, that kind of taking the blues and just twisting it around and making it a real fast, cool thing. If I Were You, this beautiful melodic guitar solo over a mid-tempo kind of mournful number. And here again is Simon McBride. He can shred. He does things at moments where he's playing real technical stuff, but then there's other times where this guy just knows what to play for the song. Like this one, he just does a beautiful solo, and his tone is just spot on. Pictures of You, I love this one. The melody is so catchy and so well written. And the ending of the song, it goes off into this sort of trippy, psychedelic ending thing where Roger Glover gets to play around. And I got also Roger Glover. I mean, sometimes in the 70s Purple, Roger moved around a lot on the bass, and sometimes he sort of didn't really do that. Like from the 80s on, he played more kind of straight ahead. But here, man, he's just all over, and his bass sounds fantastic. It's really warm, tons of great bass fills, and he really shines at the end of Pictures of You. I'm Saying Nothing, more great guitar and keyboard trade-offs. Now You're Talking. Now this is the only time, Now You're Talking and No Money to Burn, it's the only moment where it slightly dips down. Still really good songs, but man, when you've had the songs that came before this is the only time where if I had to pick my least favorite songs, it would be these two, although they're still good songs. I'll Catch You, a fantastic, beautiful ballad that Ian Gillan just sounds phenomenal on. He sounds so good, and the lyrics in the song, I love it. Ships at night are passing silently, and our love will have to wait. And then there's a line later on in the song that this is so good. My bags are always ready. My keys are in the car. Anytime you want to jump, I'll catch you in my arms. I mean, come on. The guitar solo sends a shiver up my spine every time I listen to it, but even the first time I heard it. And then, after all that, you're thinking, how many times do you hear modern records where it's very front-loaded and the last couple songs are just nothing, right? You know, they're just filler, throwaway songs. Here the album ends with the beautiful ballad, I'll Catch You. And then the last song on the record, Bleeding Obvious. This is the chopsiest, most progressive, almost like fusion-y sounding song on the album. These finger-twisting, odd meter opening riff. This could have been earlier on the record, but I really like it in this spot. Very chopsy. There's licks flying all around. It's probably the heaviest, most metal song on the record. most produced song also, as far as like different things going on. I mean, I guess if you forced me to wish for something a little bit more, maybe I would have liked to have seen them do some of this more chopsy progressive stuff. But all the other songs, they're just so well written. It just doesn't need it. And here they do it at the end. Maybe I could have dropped out those two songs that I didn't really care for. Maybe they could have done one or two more songs like this where they're really kind of playing and it's kind of progressive and fusiony. That would have been cool. But man, I got no complaints with this record. I've already got my tickets to see them live when they come around in a few months. I can't wait for this. I hope that they play a lot of these songs on their upcoming tour. I can't stop listening to this record. Right now, it's very solidly locked into my number one of 2024. It's going to be real hard to knock this album out of the number one slot. So, have you guys listened to this yet? If you haven't, please listen to this. Listen to this record. Buy it. Listen to it. It's just fantastic. It's so awesome that we've got a band with a history like Deep Purple, and at this point in their career, they're putting out an amazing record like this. This just checks off all the boxes that I want from an album in 2024. The hooks, the great playing, the great singing, the great lyrics, the great production. It's just got everything for me. So let me know what you guys think. The new Deep Purple. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Till we see you again, make sure you rock hard, ride free.